Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jambishpad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotara Shatashi Shrimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the humble devotees. All glories to the humble devotees. All glories to the humble devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. The Bhagavatam, you know where you set up Tulsi? Do you think you can grab the Bhagavatam? It's there. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so this morning we were reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, titled Creation of the Fourth Order. Chapter 29 talks between Narada and King Prachnibarhi. We're on text 30-31. So, if you just please repeat after me. Chut padito yata dinaha Sarameyo Griham Charan Vindati Yadishtam Dandam Odanam Eva Va Chutpadito Yatadina Sarameyo Griham Charan Vindati Yadishtam Dandam Odanam Eva Va Chutpadito Yatadina Sarameyo Griham Charan vindati yadishtam dandam odanam eva va chutparito yatadina saraneyo griham griham charan vindati yadishtam dandam odanam eva va Okay, word by word. Chutpaditaha, overcome by hunger. Yata, as. Dinaha, poor. Sarameyaha, a dog. Griham, from one house. Griham, to another house. Charan, wandering. Vindati, receives. Yat, whose. Dishtam, according to destiny. Dandam, punishment. Odanam, food. Eva, certainly. Va, or. Tata, similarly. Kama ashayaha, pursuing different types of desires. Jivaha, the living entity. Ucha, high. Avacha, low. Pata, on a path. Brahman, wandering. Upari, high. Andaha, low. Va, or. Madhye, in the middle. Va, or. Yati, goes toward. Dishtam, according to destiny. Priya, pleasing. Apriyam, not pleasing. Okay, so this is text 30 and 31, and also chant. This is Sanskrit of 31 too. Tata kama shayo jiva uchavacha pata brahman uparyado va madeva yati dishtam priya priyam. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The living entity is exactly like a dog, who, overcome with hunger, goes from door to door for some food. According to his destiny, he sometimes receives punishment and is driven out, and at other times receives a little food to eat. Similarly, the living entity, being influenced by so many desires, wanders in different species of life according to destiny. Sometimes he is high, and sometimes he is low. Sometimes he goes to the heavenly planets, sometimes to hell, sometimes to the middle planets, and so on. Purport. The living entity's position is herein likened to a dog's. By chance, a dog may have a very rich owner, and by chance he may become a street dog. As the dog of a rich man, he will live very opulently. Sometimes, in Western countries, we hear of a master leaving millions of dollars to a dog in his will. Of course, there are many dogs loitering in the street without food. Therefore, to liken the conditional existence of the living entity to that of a dog is very appropriate. An intelligent human being, however, can understand that if he has to live the life of a dog, he had best become Krishna's dog. In the material world, a dog is sometimes elevated and is sometimes on the street. But in the spiritual world, Krishna's dog is perpetually, eternally happy. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has therefore sung, Vaishnava Thakur Tomar Kukura Baliya Janaha More. In this way, Bhaktivinoda Thakur offers to become a Vaishnav's dog. A dog always keeps himself at his master's door and does not allow any person unfavorable to the master to enter. Similarly, one should engage in the service of a Vaishnav and try to please him in every respect. Unless one does so, he does not make spiritual advancement. Apart from spiritual advancement in the material world, if one does not develop his qualities and goodness, he cannot be promoted to the higher planetary system, as confirmed by Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, text 18. Udvam gachanti sattvasta madhye tishtanti rajasa jaghanya gunavrittista ado gachanti tamasa. Those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets, and those in the mode of ignorance go down to the hellish worlds. There are many varieties of life in the different planetary systems, and these come about due to the living entities developing his qualities in goodness, passion, and ignorance. If one is in goodness, he is promoted to the higher systems. If he is in passion, he remains in the middle systems. And if in ignorance, he is pushed down to the lower species of life. Om Gyanatipadandasya Garanjana Shalakaya Chakshulanmalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukam Karitavachalam Pangam Langai Girim Yakripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinitaranam Vancha Kaptribhishcha Kripa Sindhubevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gauda Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, read the translation again. The living entity is exactly like a dog, who, overcome with hunger, goes from door to door for some food. According to his destiny, he sometimes receives punishment and is driven out, and at other times receives a little food to eat. Similarly, the living entity, being influenced by so many desires, wanders in different species of life according to destiny. Sometimes he is high, and sometimes he is low. Sometimes he goes to the heavenly planets, sometimes to hell, sometimes to the middle planets, and so on. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a verse, and it is in the Madhya Lila, chapter 1, text 206. Text 206. Which Srila Prabhupada would quote sometimes. So I'll just read that. Bhavantam evanuchara narantara prashantani shesha manoratantara kadaham aikantika nitya kinkara praharshayashyami sanata jivatam, which the translation is, by serving you constantly, referring to Krishna, one is free from all material desires and is completely pacified. One shall engage as your permanent eternal servant and always feel joyful to have such a fitting master. So by engaging in service of Krishna, one feels completely pacified and joyful, jubilant. When shall I engage in in the service of such a fitting master? So Srila Prabhupada quoted this one time when he was walking on Juhu Beach. He would walk there regularly when he was there. Yeah, the temple's like really close. It's just, I don't know, maybe 10-minute walk or something. So Prabhupada would go there regularly for his morning walks. So So one morning walk, Srila Prabhupada was walking there, and he was surrounded by all the devotees, and Giriraj Das Brahmachari at the time, he was also there walking with Srila Prabhupada, and he said that he was feeling especially wretched and miserable that morning, and so he's walking with Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada, being extremely perceptive, and to say the least. Here it's said, there's a wonderful, Srila Prabhupada being perceptive, he quoted this verse, and he began to explain it. But in relation to the spiritual master being, you could say perceptive to say the least, is that there's this verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 7, Text 36. Anuvratanam shishyanam putranam chadvijotama na prishtam apid bruyor guravo dinavatsalaha, which means those who are spiritual masters are very kind to the needy. They are always kind to their followers, disciples and sons, and without being asked by them. The spiritual master describes all that is knowledge. So without being asked, they know, and they speak according to the need of the, says here, disciple sons. So Prabhupada, understanding how his disciple was feeling, he started to speak, and Prabhupada quoted this verse, that the first verse I just quoted. And Prabhupada began to explain it, that there's two words, anatta and sanatta. So nata means master, and sanatta means without master. All right, I'll rewind. Nata means master, and anatta means without master. So anatta means without master, sanatta with master. The whole goal of life is to become sanatta with master. Prabhupada is explaining. So then they were walking, and Srila Prabhupada, he pointed to, he writes here, a fat and fit gentleman walking. Like Prabhupada, one time there was a fat and fit gentleman, and devotees, Prabhupada told the devotees, "Oh, you should go ask him, what's that? What is it? Where do you, huh? Where do you get his merchandise? Yeah, where do you get your merchandise? Which, so Prabhupada said, pointing to a fat and fit gentleman who was walking an equally fat and fit dog, right? And, the man was walking very confidently, and the dog was also walking very confidently, and Prabhupada was explaining that the dog, he's holding his head high, he's wagging his tail, and he knows, okay, this is my master, he's going to protect me, he's going to, feed me, I don't have anything to worry about. I'm taken care of by my master. And then Prabhupada pointed to street dogs, one street dog, which they're in anxiety. They're always in anxiety. Other dogs are barking at them. They don't know where they're going to find their food. They're not fat and fit. Very skeletal. Okay, very skeletal. And kids throwing rocks at them, and diseases. Yeah, mangy. There's you see the street dogs. They're very, very miserable, actually. And so they're always in anxiety. And Prabhupada says, but see, the street dog, the poor fellow has no master. Therefore, he is always suffering. Then says that Srila Prabhupada, he was walking, and there's a lot of devotees there, and walking. And then Srila Prabhupada stopped, and he planted his cane in the sand of Juhu Beach, and then Prabhupada turned around, And there was many devotees there, and Giraj Das Giraj Swami, he explains that he was standing in the back. Prabhupada planted his cane down, then Prabhupada looked right into his eyes. And he said, so, I'll just quote what Prabhupada, so we should be sanata, protected. Well, one second. He said that Prabhupada looked into his eyes filled with, Srila Prabhupada looked into his eyes, and his eyes were filled, laden with, compassion and love, So Prabhupada says, so we should be sanata, protected, not anatta, orphan. We should have our master and be exclusively devoted to him. Then we will feel confident in his protection and always be happy. And then Prabhupada continues quoting the verse, and he's quoting, breaking down the different words. So, Manorata, the chariot of the mind. It was a fast chariot, right? It could take off. Like Prabhupada sometimes says in his books, he says, you could be sitting somewhere in the world and immediately think of India, right? You think of Vrindavan, Krishna Balaram temple, right? Krishna Balaram deities, or you think about Prabhupada's room, or you think about the Goshala, or, and you're there, So, chariot of mind, quite really fast. So Prabhupada said, mental concoction is driving us here, there, here, there. And this is what this verse is describing. Like a dog wandering, the living entities wandering here, there, looking for food scraps, and sometimes getting punished, danda, beaten, and sometimes getting a little food. So the living entities wandering from species to species and planets to planets, just wandering around. And Prabhupada says here, based on mental concoction. And he says, we have no peace. But when we have our perfect master to serve, we become peaceful, prashanta, and jubilant. I have got my master. I have no cares and anxiety. This is the ideal of life, to become sanata, jivatam, living with hope that I have got my master who will give me protection. So, yeah, it's an important lesson Prabhupada was teaching. And so then on his Giraj Swami, he continues, he's writing here, and he says that he was looking for that verse. He said many years later he was looking for that, and he couldn't seem to find it. And then finally he found it in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 1, text 206. Because Prabhupada, he was quoting different aspects of the verse, Sanata Jivatam, and this. So he found it. And reading the purport, Srila Prabhupada emphasizes the same thing as he did on Juhu Beach that day. Which is, Prabhupada, quoting here from the purport, says, just as a dog or a servant is very satisfied to get a competent, perfect master, or as a child is completely satisfied to possess a competent father, so the living entity is satisfied but completely engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord. He thereby knows that he has a competent master to save him from all kinds of danger. So yeah, Prabhupada always quoting from scripture, and also always having the ability to speak according to what, who he was speaking, what they needed to hear. And then he says here that it's in the book, His Holiness, my spiritual master's book here, Watering the Seed, but he says, so I always pray to remain Srila Prabhupada's dog. So, if we're serving the right master or the right masters, then we'll feel jubilant, we'll feel peaceful, we'll feel happy. And that's a sign, that's a good sign. So in other words, in Krishna consciousness, we should feel happy. And if we're not feeling happy, then that's indication that we're not serving the masters that we should be, or that we're not serving them enough, or maybe we're thinking that we're serving them, but we're actually not. Like a mosquito, Mosquito lands on the king and, oh yeah, But actually, the mosquito is just causing, it's a nuisance, biting. So, Prabhupada would give an example too. Sometimes, what is that? Prabhupada would say sometimes when different disciples are massaging the spiritual master, his legs, his feet, and then they start fighting. Of oh no, I want to massage here and massage there, and I think Prabhupada, in that example, he relates how actually they start hurting the body of the spiritual master. Yeah. Prahlad Maharaj teaches. Okay. Yeah. So, in the name of Krishna consciousness, in the name of service to the spiritual master, in the name of so many things, you could say good things. We have to be careful that we're actually causing pleasure to the spiritual master, not otherwise. And therefore, we don't have to speculate about it, actually. Therefore, we have gurus, we have sadhu, we have scriptures to keep us in line. Not that we have to speculate, am I pleasing them or not? And if we serve bad masters, then there's no prashanta, there's no jubilant, is it jubilance? Jubilation, there's no jubilation, there's no peace. It's just bad news. Like Madhavendra Puri, he has this verse, Kama Dinam. Maybe you could pass. I'll chant the Sanskrit, but then maybe Dravida people could do his English rendition. Kama Dinam Katina Katita Palita Dorni Deshas Tesham Jata Maino Kurun no Puto Prashant Utsri Jaitan Atiyopate Sampratam Labdi Buddhist Tvam Ayata Sharanamabayam Mam Yukshwamidase.
In how many ways have I sought to obey the seductive demands of my wicked desires? They've shown me no mercy, yet on I have gone shamelessly trying to quench lust's unquenchable fires. But now I'm rejecting these hellish desires, for my higher intelligence now has awoken. O Krishna, O shelter of fearlessness, please let me serve you with faith that will never be broken.
All right, thank you. So Madhavendra Puri, how long have I served these desires, and they brought me no peace, they brought me no happiness, bad masters, and now I'm rejecting these hellish desires, and I'm running to you, Krishna, please engage me in your service. So these masters, bad masters, and let's explain what lust, etc. One time I brought it up to my spirit. I was talking to my spiritual master, L.A. Rathayatra. I was talking about we were discussing Maya, and which, by the way, is sometimes the voice. Oh, why are you discussing Maya so much? One time Srila Prabhupada was speaking. He was in a room and he was describing all the miseries of the material world and discussing material energy and all these different things. And I think it was a disciple, but a disciple said, "Oh, can't we talk about Krishna?" And then Prabhupada said, "No, we're talking about Maya right now." So it's okay to talk about Maya, but so anyways, we were discussing Maya, and then my spiritual master said that Maya she entices us. Oh, come enjoy and have a good time, and then there's some little enjoyment. And then she brings out I think he said a bat. She brings out a bat and then she just beats the living entity. So serving all these masters, that's exactly what it is. It's okay, some enjoyment, but then a danda. Danda means stick, and beating, lashing ruthlessly, in the form of no prashanta, no peace, in the form of suffering, in the form of depression. So many different ways, just danda. And you could say this also is supposed to be instructive, because if someone can't learn by good advice and good words and this and that, and Chanakya Pandit says, okay, well, what's the last thing? Okay, danda. You have punishment. Like these people sent to jail, I mean, they're given good instructions. Or they're at least given guidelines. Okay, live like this, don't live like... their parents try to help them, their friends, family, this and that, try to train them, and then person just goes kind of insane, does many foolish things, and then they go to jail. Danda, punishment. Really suffering condition, actually, jail. Never been there, but hopefully I don't ever go. So yeah, it's a big scam. It's Maya's the best scammer. Like when we went to Tucson, we stopped off at a gas station, and I was paying the clerk paying the person to so we could fill up our gas tank, and there I saw advertisement for alcohol. It's a small container, and it's full of all these small bottles of alcohol. And the alcohol, the logo was, or the slogan was, tastes like heaven, burns like hell. Tastes like heaven, burns like hell. So that's Maya. That okay, let's get it. Oh, it tastes great, but then burns like hell. It's actually just suffering. But there's some type of illusion that there's some enjoyment there. So then the advice that Srila Prabhupada is giving here is that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Prabhupada is quoting Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that instead of being Maya's dog, means Maya says, okay, now perform a trick, little Tommy. I don't know if what do they usually name dogs? So Fido. Okay, now here you go, roll over, Fido. Now lift up your paws, Fido, and here's a treat, Fido, and now here's a ball. You throw it out in the ocean. And then the dog goes out and gets the ball and comes back. And actually I heard, someone told me that dogs actually don't like to go in the water. That's what I heard. I don't know if it's true, but they actually don't like to do it. But because their master throws the ball out in the water, then they go out and they get it and come back. It kind of looks like, because I remember seeing dogs, it kind of looks like they don't like it. Dog paddling, they're kind of struggling, it seems. But whatever the master wants, they do. So that's how people, those under the control of material energy, Maya, they're like Maya's dogs. Okay, you do this, you do that, you run here, you run there, and just completely controlled. So instead of being a dancing dog in the hands of Maya, better be a dancing devotee in the hands of Krishna, or hands of the spiritual master. That's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur says. He says he's offering to become a dog of a Vaishnava. And Prabhupada sometimes say, our neck beads, it means we're dog of a Vaishnava, dog of Krishna. And as Prabhupada quotes many times in his books, that verse, what is it? Vaishnava Chadiya Seva Nishtara Ph Seva. Is it? Keva. It's Keva? Okay. Prabhupada quotes that all the time. I mean, of course I didn't have it perfect when I just said it, but I didn't try to memorize that. I just saw it so many times in Prabhupada's books. It's, yeah. Yeah, I should memorize it. Yeah, I should memorize it. I am a bad dog. I'm actually unqualified in so many. Means that one should stay in the association of devotees. One should serve the Vaishnava. This is how you make progress. How you get liberation. Yeah, how can you get liberation without serving a Vaishnava, right? Yeah, without serving a Vaishnava, how can you get liberation? Is it Narottam Das, Thakur? I don't know, because Prabhupada quotes it a lot, but I don't know, maybe someone could look it up now, but all of these times Prabhupada quoting it, as far as, I don't remember him saying, oh, this is from so-and-so, and it just quotes it, but I don't know, maybe someone could research and see. But yeah, I think it's Narottam Das Thakur, but we will see. So Prabhupada says here a similar thing. Unless one does, similarly, one should engage in the service of a Vaishnav and try to please him in every respect. Unless one does so, he does not make spiritual advancement. So we have to come to the point where we at least have the basic humility to say, okay, I could serve somebody else. Which you could say, oh, well, that's not kind of, that's a very simple, basic point, but I don't think so. Many people in the world, they don't want to serve anybody. That's the basic principle in the material world. But even coming to Krishna consciousness, it's not a given that people will have the necessary humility to say, okay, I'm going to serve somebody. I'm going to serve other devotees. And they may have enough humility to say, okay, I'll serve my spiritual master, my Diksha spiritual master, and my Shiksha spiritual masters. Okay, I'll serve them. That's good. But that's not good enough. One should also serve the Vaishnavas, other devotees, all the devotees, whoever they are. Every single devotee they should serve. And that is the necessary humility that is required to make spiritual advancement, because without having that understanding, it's actually, it's a Mayic concept, Oh, I could just serve my spiritual master. I don't have to serve the Vaishnavas. And every Vaishnava, they have, and you could say, and there's different ways we could serve devotees. So, depending on who they are, and you could say, oh, well, new Vaishnavas, I don't want to serve new bhaktas or something. Well, yeah, we could serve them by they, whatever, different ways. They have questions, they have comments, they need some guidance. That's a way we could serve. Anyways, there's kind of running out of time, but there's a lot of different ways we could serve Vaishnavas. And this is what Prabhupada repeats over and over and over and over and over again. His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami, he had this saying that he said, if you serve Guru, Krishna will be happy. Right? Krishna will be happy that, oh, you're serving my dear representative. Krishna will be pleased. And he said, if you serve Krishna, the Guru will be happy. Oh, great. My disciple, the Guru is thinking, my disciple, he's serving Krishna, he's engaging in Krishna service, making garlands or whatever he's doing, chanting his name, Krishna's name. So the Guru will be happy. And then he said, if you serve the Vaishnavas, he said both Guru and Krishna will be happy. So that's a way to please both of them. To please Guru and Krishna, we serve the Vaishnavas. And the Vaishnavas also, it's a completely win-win-win situation. Quadruple win, right? Or unlimited win. So yeah, that's what Srila Prabhupada is recommending. Or else it's just Urdvam ganchati sattvasta madhye tishyanti rajasa jaganya gunavritti sta ado ganchanti tamasa. Goodness going up, right? Passion, earthly planets, mode of ignorance, hellish worlds, and then manorata, mental concoction going all over. And yeah, there's no happiness, no prashanta, no jubilation. So yeah, therefore we should try to just serve the right masters. So, does anybody have any questions or comments?
I have one short comment, if that's okay.
Of course, yeah.
There's several words meaning service.
Yes.
One of them is servitude,
Yes.
and one is like servitorship, which you'll find in the books. And
Which one's better?
yeah, probably would often use servitude, in the context of the five mellows, Shanta and then Dasya with servitude. But we're discussing the servitude because the definition of servitude in the dictionary is the condition of being a slave or having to obey another person, whereas servitorship is the voluntary service, which Prabhupada would also use sometimes. So really, just in terms of our own little understanding here, we have to serve, but it's either going to be servitude to Maya and those, kama, dina, or servitorship to Krishna, which is voluntary. Servitude is not voluntary. That's why there's a problem with it. So that's really the choice we have. We're going to serve one way or another. Either we're going
servitude or servitorship.
Yeah, servitorship is probably uses it sometimes to mean that, the mellow of servanthood is another word, servanthood, which he doesn't use so much.
But for this understanding, it's good.
Right now, everyone is in a condition of servitude.
In comparison to Maya and Krishna, servitorship to Krishna versus servitude to Maya. Yeah, there's that verse in the 7th canto, Brahmachari Gurukule Vasandanta Gurohitam, right? Interesting enough, Prabhupada, he says that the Brahmachari should live in the Gurukul, the ashram, for the pleasure of the Guru, and he said he should be a slave. Oh no. That's how he translates it. Sandanta Gurohitam. Now, of course, people may have some problems with that these days, but the main, you could say, essence of it being is that we live for the pleasure of the Guru, and someone may say, well, and right nowadays it's not like a traditional Gurukul ashram. By no means. I mean, we have elements of it, but traditional Gurukul ashram is that the spiritual master is there, and he's taking care of the boys and taking care of everybody nicely, and but within ISKCON it's not like that, but still we should try to then how does this verse, well, we should still feel and act and operate on the level that I live for the pleasure of my spiritual master, I live for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada, for the pleasure of the devotees, just for their service. And a lot of the times, again, the Diksha Guru is not locally present. But we have our Shiksha Gurus, and we should have local Shiksha Gurus, and we could think like that. And also just living in the ashram for the service of all the devotees. So should try to see how it applies, still. And, oh, well, that was kind of... I think we shouldn't think like, oh, well, that verse, it's like in the category of the brahmacharis wearing tree bark and, growing their hair matted. Yeah, it's kind of like of the past. We don't have dreadlocks nowadays, right? I mean, we don't wear tree bark dhotis, these days. So similarly, we don't really have to be sold out to the Guru, but we're supposed to try to follow. So, all right, yes.
I've seen devotees with dreadlocks.
There are some, yeah.
Thank you for a wonderful class.
Thank you.
I have a question from your last class. You quoted a verse where somebody said, I'm in the dungeon of the heavenly planets?
Yes.
Who was that again?
Bhakti Tirtha Swami.
Can you go ahead and say the thing that you said? Do you remember by the essence of it?
Yeah. Oh, I don't have the book here. I thought I had the book. Wrong book. Same author, wrong book. It's in Many Moons, I believe. book by His Holiness Giraj Swami, and there's a section there in Bhakti Tirtha Swami, his life, and different few chapters there, and I believe it's there. And if it's not there, then yeah, you have to figure out where I saw that. But I think it was in a Vyasa Puja offering to Srila Prabhupada. But pretty much what he was saying was that he's saying that it was kind of, sometimes writers, they write in such a way that it's not like they're writing from the perspective, like what I saw from, or what I understood from reading that, was that he was writing from the perspective like he's entered the heavenly planets. Okay. Here. Good. All glory to fast.
Database. What ridiculous mistakes I made. Now I am sentenced to luxurious sufferings and harassments decade after decade as a prisoner of the heavenly dungeon. Oh dear Srila Prabhupada, if I only had another chance. And so it's like that.
Yeah. If I only had another chance. And he goes on, he said, my devotion could only brought me that far. Which, that was what I was trying to stress the other day, that, as Prabhupada was quoting Jayananda Prabhu, if you have any material desires, you would go to the heavenly planets, reside there, and then from there you make progress in Krishna consciousness and go to the spiritual world. So that's what Bhakti Tirtha Swami was saying here, that on and on, he said, my devotion only brought me so far, and now I'm in this heavenly dungeon, so, that's quite...
Can I ask Dravida Prabhu a question?
Of course.
So I'm a little slow, so forgive me, please. But you were saying servitude. Your point was it's for Maya specifically, or more applicable?
Okay. The idea is just looking at the two words, servitude and servitorship. Prabhupada, I don't remember even knowing the word servitude. That was introduced in reading Prabhupada's books. It comes in quite often, it's over 200 times in his books. And he uses it exclusively to mean, mostly when he's talking about the different rasas. There's different rasas, one of them is servitude, like that. But he also sometimes uses servitorship. You may recall seeing that in the same context. But just for our own understanding of what the choice is as a living entity, servitude literally means slavery. In other words, kamadinam, now I've been forced to serve these masters, lust, anger, greed. That's servitude. Servitorship is voluntary service, which is what we're all about. In other words, that's exactly what that verse is about. Now I'm not going to listen to their demands anymore of lust, anger, and greed. My masters, many, many births. Please engage me in your service. He's asking that there's so the choice as the living entity is the servitude of Maya, which is like slavery, or the voluntary service of Krishna. Now, of course, he brought in the idea that when you're part of the Gurukul, Prabhupada says it's just like a slave. But you've come to the Gurukul, your parents put you there voluntarily. In other words, one is the key difference is that the master, in the case of serving Krishna and the devotees and everything, is that there's a loving exchange there. It's not one of exploitation. Yeah. Whereas Maya is punishing you by forcing you to serve your lower. When you leave Krishna. So in essence, that's the choice that the living entity has. And we don't even know we have the choice until you come and you get some knowledge of Krishna consciousness. Oh, I have to serve. Prabhupada uses this all the time. You have to serve. You have to be a dog. Okay, so be Krishna's dog. And, it'll be like that.
Can DOS also be a word for slave? I was going to put forward for the conversation, because this is what we're supposed to do, is certainly sadhana bhakti can be against one's will at the lower stages of performance of services, because I'm not wanting to get up early. I'm not wanting to take a cold shower in the winter. I'm not wanting to fast today. Those are all things that I'm forced to do. So I think there could be also, although the relevance to what you're saying about the definition as it's commonly understood, I think that the application of that word also applies certainly to lower stages of sadhana bhakti, and in trying to understand how it might apply to dasya ras, it didn't come right to mind of an example in dasya ras, but like Nanda Maharaj certainly didn't want to leave Krishna in Mathura, but Krishna told him, no, go home. Go home, you have to go. I'm going to stay here with my parents, you know. So I bet if one was scholarly, he could easily find examples of people, devotees in dasya ras that serve Krishna in a way, I don't want to do that. I bet you could find examples of that. So I'm just saying it out there, putting it there for the conversation that if Prabhupada used it, then there has to be relevance and appropriateness for, even though at this point in our usage of the language, it might not be commonly understood.
You know, one thing is a little bit, but we require a little more discussion. One thing is that I asked, because you mentioned cold showers, it's kind of a side point, but you mentioned cold showers. But I asked Brigupati Prabhu, because Vijay Prabhu made a point in his class some time ago that Brigupati Prabhu is so energetic, and it's true. I mean, he's really energetic. He's just going on book distribution. It's like a lot of energy. So then I asked him about that, because I asked, anyways. So I asked him about that. I said, "Oh, so how you have so much energy? What's going on?" So what he said was, of course, the morning program and chanting Hare Krishna and reading Prabhupada's books and doing so many things, following the process of Krishna consciousness. But one thing he brought up was that, he said I go on a walk regularly, and I go on a really brisk walk, and he was saying that's how I get a lot of my energy. And he said also I take cold showers. He said every morning I take a cold shower, and he said that brisk walk and that cold shower, and he said specifically after the cold shower, after I dry off and get ready and everything. He said I feel like a what do you say, a new life or something like that, new man. So the fast walk and anyways, that's what he said. Some dietary things too, but all right. Any last question or comment? Travita Prabhu, you have? Okay. All right. Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yeah, Narantar